So the Solana ecosystem had quite a rough beginning of 2025. Obviously, we saw that Pump.Fund suck the liquidity out of the majority of the Solana ecosystem. We saw Trump coin, Melania coin, sucking even more liquidity out the Solana ecosystem, leaving many Solana investors honestly not only just tired of the ecosystem, but leaving it as a whole. Now, over the last couple months, since all of this happened, I've been keeping my eye on Solana, not only as a coin, but as an ecosystem and as a company. And the reason being is because I believe moments like these are very defining in trying to determine whether or not a company actually has future, or if it has a future, if it actually has potential, right? Oftentimes, many companies will see harsh adversities and they'll just give up. Their coin will kind of just disappear, it'll die, and well, you just move on to the next one. And I was very curious to see if that was going to happen to Solana. Now, I figured it wasn't going to be the case because Solana's been through worse things, such as the FTX and Alameda research situation, but it was worth at least keeping an eye on it, which is the reason why I've not talked about it a ton, right? When all of this stuff happened, it was a real threat to the Solana ecosystem, which I told you all in January. And I told you all, once I get an idea of whether or not I think this is truly going to impact Solana or not, I'll make a video for you all. And here we are. So earlier today, actually over in the school, as you can see here, I said that I am planning on purchasing some more Solana if / when we see it set a higher low. There are some massive signals flashing that saying that Solana is recovering as an ecosystem and as a token, and I think it will give us another run if the market allows. And what I mean by this, quite simply, is that I think Solana is going to make a comeback. Now, it's not performed terribly, but it's definitely lost a little bit of its shine recently. And I do think it's going to gain a lot of it back. And so I just kind of want to jump into some of the things that I'm noticing that give me this gut feeling that Solana will start to regain some of that previous glory. Now, the first thing that I believe is obviously the most important thing to watch out for right now is quite simply just Solana's price, right? What we can see is that Solana's price took an absolute beating from January 18th all the way down to April 6th, in which we saw Solana as a whole fall. I mean, guys, 68, no, 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 68% over just the course of a couple months. But what you can see here is that Solana's actually made quite a hell of a recovery. Not only have we seen it being able to break out of this descending structure that it was in, but we've also been able to see Solana set the new higher high, both of which are two major steps in actually getting a full-blown breakout. And while we are seeing this breakout here happening, while we are seeing this higher high happening, we're actually seeing this built off of a massive level of support. One that held us up way back here, right here, right here, right here, and now right here. And all of these things tell me that although it's probably going to be a choppy ride and we're not going to see Solana just go straight up, it has a dang good chance of really starting to regain some momentum. And seeing Solana's price push back to that golden pocket, seeing it push back up towards, say, $191, $230, I think that's extremely reasonable. And so from a price perspective, Solana is actually looking very good, and it looks like it could be setting the bottom in, right? Not saying it can't fall all the way down here one more time, but even if it does, I do believe the bottom of this move would be probably getting very close. And I think some sort of return back up to, say, $191 would be, somewhat soon or somewhat pending. And so, again, from a price perspective, although it's going to be choppy, it's not going to be easy. I do think that we are going to see Solana try to give us a run. If not, now, maybe after this next pullback that we do see here. In addition to that, when we look at the ecosystem, you can see the recovery that I'm talking about. If we look at the TVL for Solana over on DeFi Llama, which is the total value locked, what you can see here is that it's recovering. The Solana ecosystem saw absolutely fantastic growth, pushing up towards all-time highs at the top of the pump funds, saga that we were seeing, right? But the reality is that once that pump fund liquidity started draining, once Trump coin started draining, Melania coin started draining, we saw the ecosystem take a beating, falling all the way from what was $11.7 billion in total value locked, all the way down to $6 billion, a gigantic fall, over 35%. And what we can see is that although we are still a little bit lower, it has been able to recover back up right around $8 billion. And it is building up a strong layer here, a strong layer of foundation, which I do believe could very well hold. And we could start to see, of course, Solana's ecosystem as a whole start trying to gain some momentum again. And so when you look at just the token, when you look at the ecosystem, all of these point in the direction of saying that, look, Solana has a chance here. It's not like it's performed the worst. Listen, it's still the number 6 crypto in the world, still sitting right around $77 billion. So it's not like it just died over the last couple of months, but I do believe it's going to start to perform better, especially moving forward if the market does allow. And so with that in mind, again, as I mentioned over in the school, I am going to be doing some buying on Solana if/when that pullback happens. Now, before I actually talk about my buy levels and where I am expecting to be able to buy some Solana at, I will let you know, listen, if you are somebody who wants to see not only the things that I am doing, my buys, my sells, my trades, mine, Connor Kenny's, Aaron Bennett's, and many of our other coaches, but if you are someone who is simply trying to just grow in this whole crypto thing, you're trying to get better, period, what I want you to do is I want you to check out the link to the school down below. Guys, at the school, our mission is very simple. We take crypto investors like yourselves and we give you the tools that you need to create strategies, because a strategy is what creates a winning investor. It's not the other way around. And I define a winning investor as someone who is confident and someone who is consistent. And so if you feel like you lack confidence or you lack consistency in this market, check out the link down below. And again, if you don't see growth within the first few hours of joining, I'll just give you your money back. I think that's a fair deal. So feel free to go check that out. But let's kind of talk a bit more about, okay, where can we expect to be able to pick up some of the Solana? So the reason why I am saying that I'm going to be buying Solana if we see a pullback is because it's giving us some early signs that a pullback very well might be on the way. Now, please do remember, we were doing some buying on Solana at the bottom side of this descending parallel channel. So we bought Solana here. We bought a lot more Solana there. We bought a lot more Solana there. So the reality is I'm not rushing to buy right now, but I will continue to build on this position if given the right opportunity. And considering the fact that we are seeing Solana's price pushing upwards, but while this is happening, we're starting to get these signs of early bearish divergence in the sense that we're seeing higher highs on the price here, as you can see, but lower highs here on the RSI. The same thing is happening over on our Elliott waves. You can start to see that we are still in this end of fifth wave correction. When you pair all of these things together, it does feel like Solana very easily at any given point maybe gives you a little bit of capitulation, right? Maybe it pulls back towards some of these lower levels. And so my strategy right now is actually just to buy a little bit of Solana at each one of these little micro lows. So what I do is I have a small buy order set right here, right at this $134 level where we set this low in here. And then in addition to that, I also have another one set right back here around that $125 level. These are two key levels of support that I think are going to serve as support levels for Solana, in which I just think that the bulls might try to step in and push the price up off these levels. And so although they aren't going to be gigantic purchases, they are going to be purchases nonetheless. And I am going to be doing some buying at those two levels, hoping to try to catch Solana if it does, or when it does, try to set the higher low. And so with that in mind, that's my strategy, but that is just the general basis of where I am. I think Solana is showing many early signs that the ecosystem as a whole is recovering and the price as a whole is recovering. And I think that's going to give it an opportunity to try to push back up, try to push back above, $90 billion, maybe back up towards $100 billion and try to surpass again BNB, try to challenge XRP one day again, right? I think it has an opportunity to at least reclaim that number 5 spot. And I think that it could be sooner than later. Obviously, it just depends on the market, right? If we see Bitcoin capitulate to $84,000, the reality is that Solana is going to fall back towards 120, 115 probably, right? But if it doesn't, and we actually can see this market sustain itself, if Bitcoin puts in that higher low, if it can continue upwards, right, I think Solana is going to have a hell of a performance. And hopefully that does kind of transition into Solana coins as well. So all of these things will happen in due time, but I did just want to update you and let you know I am planning on getting back into the Solana train. I just need to see that pullback because I did some good buys back here. So I'll let this bad boy ride until I get a pullback to buy in a bit of a better opportunity. So I'll keep you updated. If you are a trader, do not forget that you can head to that link down in the description below. If you do want to trade some Solana yourself on up to 100x leverage, you can do that over on BTCC, only if you're an experienced trader, not a beginner. And if this is interesting to you, you can get a 10% bonus on all first-time deposits between $500 and $100,000. And that link is down below. So feel free to go check all these things out. And of course, I hope you guys have enjoyed the very first Solana-based video that we've done in quite a while. I know it's been a while, but I needed to see if it was going to be able to make some of these smart moves, and it does seem to be doing that. So I'll continue to update you as this all does play out. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. Don't forget to check out the school in the description below, and I'll see you all in the next one.